Welcome to the Metal Voice. Today on the show, the one, the only Grammy award-winning producer, guitarist extraordinaire, the guy who recorded with Kiss, Meat Loaf, W.A.S.P, Blackthorne, Murderers Row, and just so many more groups. It's unbelievable. The one, the only Mr. Bob Kulick. What's happening, Bob?
Hi there. How's it going there today, Jimmy? Thank you so much for having me on Metal Voice today.
Yeah. No problem, man. So, the big news here, it's kind of like a reissue news. Big reissue news is Murderers Row, the new, I guess the reissue of the album, the debut album, the self-titled album. It's coming out again for fans to enjoy a second time around with a lot of goodies in it. Also, and I'll ask you one sec, and also a new video will be coming out next week, the song India. So let's start off with that, Bob. Tell me about this reissue. Why now?
Well, let's see. Actually, it is a reissue, but the truth is most people will have never heard the vast majority of what's on this record, if any of the record whatsoever.
Sure.
Just because, for two reasons. A, it was released originally a long time ago. And then secondly, because it was never really officially released in a few territories. So people will find this to be like something like, like a lost nugget of gold that, wow, where did this come from? You recognize the people involved, Jimmy Waldo and David Glen Eisley, of course, and myself, and then the fabulous rhythm section of Jay Shellen and Chuck Wright. Jay currently playing with Yes, and Chuck currently playing with Quiet Riot. But back then we all banded together as baseball, softball fans. Dave Eisley, Chuck, and myself all played ball, and Murderers Row is a reference to the baseball New York Yankees, who back in the day, when Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all those guys were playing, were Murderers Row, in that everyone that came to bat could murder the ball. So it was sort of our little baseball joke connection to this name. And again, the fact is that most people will not have heard this. And so it will appear to be something brand new. And the visual that we've now added, courtesy of the fabulous Jack Sawyers, who is a fabulous video producer, has worked with a lot of really great bands, including Kiss, doing videos. And this was a labor of love for us, in that we had this idea of taking the song India, which is a special tune in that I used a choral sitar to play the themes amidst the attack mode of the rest. A song that Jimmy Waldo and I came up with the music, and our fabulous singer David Glen Eisley, who showcased prominently in this video, super talented guy. Dave and I were the guys that wrote Sweet Victory, the SpongeBob song. We were the guys that produced and sang and played that song. People will have the opportunity to not only hear something else that we've done, but also to see us. And I think that that's going to be key in helping put us out there, in any entity that somebody might see us as a band or a duo, or people that are able to do one-offs and stuff like that. This is one of our talents, and I think this showcases, this video and this song showcases some of that talent.
So, just so everybody understands this, just to clarify, this is a reissued song, but the video is brand new. Just so everybody's clear about this, this is a brand new video shot with the original Murderers Row song, which is called India.
Correct. This video has never been seen by anybody. We just did it over the past few months, and as I'm saying, the fabulous Jack Sawyers, our director and videographer here, did an incredible job, immodestly. I say that this is one of the few things that I've been involved with that I actually am in love with. The visual of this is so powerful that I think it gets the message across of what we were trying to say about this song and spiritualism, and a song that has a theme to it. And I won't spoil the surprise of the guitar solo, which is really not a guitar solo. As I'm saying, I was able to use this choral sitar as the actual instrument that made the sound that is a sitar sound.
Yeah, but so you didn't actually play the sitar, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, because I see you in the video, and I don't want to spoil this for everybody. You're actually with a sitar, so I'm thinking in my head, how long did it take to learn how to play the sitar, right? But it's not.
It would take a long time.
That's right.
As in a movie, as in something like this, where somebody's trying to show their concept of what this is. This seemed like a fitting approach to add to that, was to have it look like what it sounds like.
Why do you think it kind of went under the radar? And I know a lot of guys who love this album, by the way. It was very, it had its following, we'll say. But why do you think it kind of went under the radar at the time? It's a great album. But why did it go under the radar?
I think there was some label issues, and there was a glut of stuff that was coming out at the same time that was maybe similar to this. And somehow, since we're not able to get it together to be able to go do shows and stuff like that, it kind of just fell by the wayside, only to be revived by the fact that it's a great song now, and that it is being re-released, and people will get to hear this down the road from where we all were then, an all-star lineup of great players is what I mean, and an amazing singer. David is a world-class singer.
You have, I didn't even know what question to ask you. You've played with so many people, so many bands, so many great albums, so many great songs. It's just difficult to pinpoint some questions with you. So I'm going to have to go pick a little bit from each era, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I want to start off. When I was a young kid, the first group I ever heard when I was about 11 years old was Kiss. I dressed up as Gene Simmons, went trick-or-treating, like most kids my age. You were there. You were there at the audition when this is like before they were a Kiss, right? Right? They weren't called Kiss yet.
Right. They were Wicked Lester or whatever it was. Correct. That's right.
And it's amazing because, here you are with Ace, the impetus of it all, right? When you look back and you go, man, now they're going on a farewell tour, which is even crazier. You've been there from the beginning all the way to the end. Connect the dots here. How does it feel seeing the beginning and now they're going on this farewell tour? What are your thoughts on all this? Is it time?
Well, I always say never again, but I guess in this case, they want to wrap it up in a great way, and I think that probably makes sense. So coming full circle all the way from having an idea, to being a successful band with a gimmick, and then being able to transition through numerous musical changes and styles, exactly, and what's popular now and what's not popular, what's in, what's out. They were able to navigate through all of that while keeping, themselves as current and as fresh as possible with either different members or different costumes and concepts and ideas. And so now reaching this stage of, being an institution, so to speak, a brand, a huge brand that people recognize. I think that this is, the perfect point for them to set themselves up for a glorious adieu.
Yeah. If you would have been chosen as the guitarist for Kiss, what direction would have you went into in regards to guitar stylings? Ace was more of a Jimmy Page-ish kind of sloppy style, right? Which is his own little style. What direction would have you? And I'm sure you've thought about this all these years, man. I would have made them do this and that.
Well, no, I never really thought about making them do anything other than that. Obviously, if I was in the band, we would have written different songs.
Yeah.
And I might have approached stuff as I did on Larger Than Life or Nowhere to Run or All American Man. Fiercely aggressive where necessary, and melodic, in the places where it needed melody support. I wrote a song that people heard on Unmasked, co-wrote on Naked City on Unmasked, and so people could hear some of the writing on there. Plus, I wrote 4 songs on that are featured on Gene's Vault that I wrote with Gene.
Yeah.
And so there's more of my writing. Obviously, I played most of the lead guitar and a lot of the other guitars on Paul's solo record from '79, and then '89 did Paul's tour, the solo tour as well.
Yep, yep.
And you know, in between those periods of time, you know, the demo from Mr. Speed, which I played on, which was released on one of the box sets, and you know, a sort of other stuff that either they recommended me for, like, you know, Gene, when he was going out with Diana Ross, had me come to the studio and play on Diana Ross's singles that wound up being her hit singles, Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Mirror Mirror. So, you know, all of that, you know, having a relationship, you know, where they recognize me as somebody who's like just a really versatile guitar player, and he can write and he can perform. And
do you think the Kiss Army, you know, the fanatics out there, the convention guys, do they consider you a studio session part of the family, or they consider you one of Kiss's guitarists? Because actually, if you ask me, Mark St. John, you know, the rest in peace, you know, I mean, he played on one album. I don't even think he wrote on anything, but he's considered the guitarist. I don't even think he toured with them at the time. You've actually participated on a live tour. You've participated on Paul Stanley's solo album. Of course, you wrote a song on Unmasked, which is more so than a lot of people. Killers, the 4 songs. You've participated in so much of the Kiss history. I would put you as a guitarist of Kiss. How do the fans view you? I mean, I know they embrace you, but what's the vibe you get from the fans?
it depends on who, you know. I think the acknowledgement of being part of the extended family is what it is. You know, that I have my place in history, so to speak, you know, alongside the guitar players that played on the records. So, you know, there's that, and, you know, the visual of me playing with Paul and, you know, that kind of stuff. I think people see that in their minds, and that's, you know, the connection that they feel having seen me up there with Paul, and, you know, actually got up and jammed a couple of times live with Gene. So, you know, there's photos and stuff. So the fact that this guy, me, keeps popping up, you know, from time to time in this circumstance, even though it's, you know, one of the things that I've done in my career, and I'm not minimalizing it or maximizing it. I'm just saying it as what it is. Yeah. You know, it's been a recurrent theme for sure, something I'm proud of, obviously.
Oh, big recurring theme.
But, you know, I don't overanalyze it. That's, you know, it's not for me to analyze.
Sure. And now that I know, I just recently saw an interview with Gene and Paul, and they said they're going to invite everybody who's sort of part of the Kiss family and musicians over the years, you know, to come in, I guess, I would think, jam with them a song or two. Has been there any talks about you coming on stage and doing a song or two, maybe All American Man or Rockin' in the USA?
We'll see what the future has in store. Yeah, let's see what happens with that.
But no talks yet. That's what I'm getting at. No. Nothing yet. Okay, all right. You wouldn't probably tell me anyways, but you gotta ask, right?
Absolutely.
When Killers came out, 1982, and a lot of people know this as the greatest hits, but there was 4 brand new songs. They're trying to recover from the Elder mishap. What was the spirits like in the studio when you guys were recording?
Well, you know, they were trying to get these songs to be sort of a hold the fort while they were working on Creatures of the Night, and again, seeing about making a member change. In this case, you know, obviously it was, you know, getting to that time for Ace to be replaced or him leaving or whoever, you know, happened. I'm not exactly privy to the exact how that happened, but, you know, in any case, I was called upon again as the band's friend and resident guitar player helper.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
That you know, come on out to LA and let's work on some of these songs. And like I said, you know, Nowhere to Run really was something that was a lot of fun to do. And you know, Partners in Crime, one of the other songs that had a good time, fun time playing. But you know, they were really trying to do 5 different things at once, and that made it very distracting and kind of made it more challenging for all involved. And that, you know, looking for a guitar player trying to work on one record and then finish some songs for another record. It was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, did you play on or did you contribute in the arrangements on Creatures of the Night?
I played on a couple of things, and then they wound up not getting used. But these recordings were all done at the same time. So while we were doing the solo to Nowhere to Run, somebody was working on doing a vocal on one of the songs on Creatures. So, it was like I'm saying, it was a fairly confusing period of time, including but not limited to Vinnie Crisano showing up at one of the sessions, and Vinnie Vincent, and the band introducing me, and then asking, "What do you think?" So it was kind of like I said, it was a lot at the time.
For me, I'll be honest with you. If I was the guitarist, if I was you back then, and, I kind of saw Ace was, goofing around, and I kind of like, what's wrong with you, man? You got this opportunity. I mean, did you feel like that? Like, guy, wake up here. I mean, you're getting this opportunity of a lifetime to be in this biggest band in the world, and you're screwing it all up. And, I don't know. I mean, did you ever go through those moments like, Ace, what are you doing here? I mean, why are you letting it all fall apart?
No, I didn't know him well enough to say anything, nor was there, any point in this was his personality and this was how he processed being in a band, probably more like most people in bands, just try to party out and have a great time. Whereas Gene and Paul were, shall we say, more economical about being more businesslike about it. Yeah. And I think that proved to be to their benefit.
What was it like mimicking Ace's solos? Like you're a real well-rounded guitarist, so I mean it must have been easy for you, right? It's just
well, I mean,
for me at least, for I see it.
If you listen, I'm really not mimicking his solos.
No, when you did, I'm sorry, for a live too, when they asked you to mimic his solos.
Well, yeah, I mean, I tried to play in the spirit of what he would have done. Other than that, there's stuff there that is obviously mine, and would he have come upon that or played that? I don't know. But it was in spirit close enough to be bought as well. It conceptually sounds like something he would play. So, maybe, as you're saying, a little bit more precise Jimmy Page rather than the sloppier Jimmy Page.
There you go.
That certainly was part of my style and probably an appropriate way to, name the style of what I was doing. It was Jimmy Page-ish, Ace-ish.
Sure.
Ish.
Yeah.
With an accent on the ish.
Yeah, ish. And Vinnie, and recently, I mean, you must have gotten to know Vinnie Vincent a little bit, and now he's coming back. I mean, what do you think about his departure and his re-entry? What's your thoughts on his coming back? Do you think he's going to disappear again?
We just saw him at the Pre-Kiss Cruise party in Miami. He was at the hangar event that I was at, and he got up and played a couple of songs. And, let's see where it goes from there. It was hard to say based upon that, but it looks like so he got up and played, and that's a good first step. And not sure where that's going to lead. Let's see what happens.
Okay. And okay, now I'm going to jump to Meatloaf, if you don't mind. Here's another big album I was a big fan of growing up, Bat Out of Hell, and of course you played on Bad Attitude later on. But you toured on Bat Out of the Hell. At least I assume you did, right?
I did. I was, my brother and I were the original guitar players, and actually on the Bat Out of Hell that is available now to be bought, there's 2 live songs from the original band on there. Which is the band I was in, and the live version of Bat Out of Hell is on there, and so that actually starts the record, and then it's the record as it was. So it's pretty interesting. There was actually a Dan Rather interview on the other night that my girlfriend and I watched, and they actually showed a clip of us playing on Saturday Night Live, and Meatloaf made the comment about how that single-handedly helped break the band in the United States, which was partially true.
Wow, it's amazing. And then that album took a little bit of a while. It took some time to break. I remember that. It wasn't just right off the bat. I think they called it a dead album at first, right? And then
yep.
And anyway, so what did you learn? What did you learn from your time in Meatloaf as a guitarist, a performer, or even maybe something personal?
Well, learned how hard it really is to go from nobody knew who it was to the record was number one, and we were traveling all over the world. It was the big lesson in this. This is what it takes to go from point A to point Z, to get all the way from boot off the stage to victory. Yeah. And then after that, I played with him 83 through 89, and it was exciting to see that the fans were still loyal, and that some of the tours were amazingly great. Went to Australia, went to all sorts of places, Iceland.
Yeah.
It was great. Tons of European tours and stuff. So it was a good touring period for me in my life, playing some really classy songs. And at a certain point, I was the musical director of the band, and so there was a lot of that aspect to it. That it was more than just me being a guitar player.
So let's jump to WASP here, okay? The Crimson Idol.
Yes.
I'm getting some feedback there. The Crimson Idol, WASP. I mean, what were the ups and downs in recording that album originally? One of the classic metal albums of all time.
Well, Blackie really just needed my lead guitar services, which is what that is on there, essentially. It's not me playing rhythm guitars. It's just the solos. I had a great time playing those solos. He recognized immediately when we started talking about it and listening to the tracks that he knew that I knew what this song, especially the Crimson Idol, required, which was what I put on there. We had a lot of fun working on this together, but I didn't feel attached as attached to being in the band. So, I just took it for what it was, a chance to play some really great stuff on some really great stuff. And that was about all it was.
Have you heard the remake, the re-idolized?
I haven't heard it.
Oh, you haven't heard it? You should hear. Actually, it's pretty good. I got to say, it's for a remake. It's pretty good. You should have a listen to it. I enjoyed it, actually. I like the original and I like the remake.
Well, I mean, it's flattering that somebody would, that he would want to remake it, and I'll have to check it out. But the coming up with what I came up with, somebody playing that is a lot different than playing it from the, when there's no guideline of what's going on,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, definitely. I mean, when you first heard there was a remake, what were your first thoughts? Like, why? Like, was it a why, or was it like, oh, this is a great idea?
I understood why. So, no, I just was like, okay, well, it's not the first time people have redone their own stuff.
Right, that's it.
Right?
Absolutely. Now that, especially today, everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it's to get back the playing rights, or the what do they call it?
Well, this way they have they own this version that they can license.
That's right. Because they've lost it, or they don't get any money from the licensing that they used to have.
Or someone else owns it.
That's right. And still Black Enough. The ups and downs of recording that. Were any problems? Would everything go well, or how about that?
It was pretty much the same process. By then, we had a really good working relationship on how to, give him what he wanted while me being able to play stuff that I was happy with. Yeah. That's a fine line sometimes.
Sure.
But actually in this case, it worked out really well.
And probably, I think maybe it was a little bit before when Skull came out with No Bones, right? It was right before Crimson Idol, 1990. It was in 1991, I think so. And now you're coming out with a reissue, or it's actually already out. It's Skull, No Bones, right? You want to tell me about that?
The Skull, No Bones about it was a labor of love back in the day, and it's great that the demos now have also been re-released on what would have been a second record, and everybody can get to hear that first record as it was in two different versions. We had two different versions of that record. We had multiple recordings of some of the songs, and one features one set and the other features the other set. So it is of interest to somebody wanting to hear Bobby Rock playing drums, Chuck Berge playing drums on a couple of the same songs on different versions is of some interest. But the songs were basically the same. But it's exciting that that's out as well, that people will get to hear that. And like I said, and the demos as well.
So just to clarify here, Blackthorne turned into Murderers Row, correct? Minus Graham Bonnet.
Yeah, I guess one could say that they followed each other. They were certainly, not the same band because it was a different singer, which totally changed what it sounded like with Dave.
Yeah.
And, the material was different. So it was in succession, Blackthorne and then Murderers Row, and certainly an offshoot of Blackthorne, but was not, was not trying to be anything other than what it turned itself into, which now yet lives again with a visual that has nothing to do with anything to do with Blackthorne or any Skull or anything else like that.
Sure. And actually, I wanted to ask you this about Unmasked, your song Naked City. Did you write that song, or did you write the song for Gene and Paul? Did they ask you to write a song? How did it go about?
Well, no, I actually only wrote part of the song, but it was mainly the main part of the main body music of the chorus and all of that. Gene and I were getting together and trying to write some stuff, of which a few of the songs were on the vault, like I said. But this was one that he thought would be right for the band at the moment. And with some fixing up, and that wound up on the record, yeah.
Okay. Was there any, and how's this? Was there any ghost writing that you did on all your time with Kiss that, they don't like to talk about, or you don't like? Or,
not really.
No?
Not really.
It's all out there
not
now.
Really. Yeah, it's pretty much out there, yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. The big reissue, and that's the big reissue of Murderers Row, the new video coming out next week. The song called India. I know a lot of people want to, revisit this, and there's a lot of fans back in the day.
And I think people should keep in mind that this was also done before the advent of Pro Tools, and so
right.
this was not a copy paste. This was not a cut and paste. This was actual performances, and I think in that way, it's pretty organic compared to what most people do now. So play it loud, and the video you'll be able to actually see, what is at least a concept more than just a performance video. Not just guys standing on stage trying to play, but a concept to this. But Jimmy, I want to thank you and Metal Voice for giving us this opportunity and for taking the time. Really appreciate it, and I hope everybody enjoys this cool video.
Jimmy K here, Metal Voice. Look at this. The Metal Voice shirts are now on sale. Just go to the video description to find out on how you can purchase one.